All right, everybody. At Divertimento episode 9, Japan version. It's been a short break from my New York video series, and today we have my good friend and great drummer, Gene Jackson. uh, Gene, you've been in Japan for quite some time now. We used to play together from Brooklyn days. When was that? Since 1995.
Yeah.
So we're going like several generations together of music recording. When did you move to Japan?
Like around 2003, I guess.
So you've been here
back and forth though, but I was going back and forth.
Right, about 20 years now, almost. 2003 to 2022 now.
Yeah. So, but officially, maybe 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I just got rid of my apartment in New York and just pretty much made this the home
Right,
base.
right.
So.
What's the word? How is it? I mean, that's a big cultural change, from Brooklyn to Tokyo.
Yeah, it is, but
you feel more fulfilled here musically, or?
Well, of course, New York is New York, and there's, some caveats of, like living in a place that where the level is a little different. I'm not going to say it's better or worse, but a little different, playing field here. The type of musician, different mentality. So it's a little different. But that said, it's still enough for me to continue to work on the things that I'm working on, and for me to progress.
I think it's important to have like a foundation of New York musical severity.
Yeah.
Right? By having that, you can move anywhere you like.
And
you already know what you got to do.
Yeah,
right? Even if there's, the environment around you is not nearly the same.
Right.
But and in a way, you could become like sort of a mentor to a lot of people who are still young musicians here trying to find that thing.
Yeah, ideally that would be nice, but that's a little different too. But, I did my time in New York. I feel very fortunate with the career that I had there. So I don't really feel like I'm shorting myself on what could be. And also too, I didn't become a musician to become rich and famous. I'm trying to stay focused on trying to become a better drummer and a better human being, better musician and a better human being. And I could do that anywhere, especially after living in New York. So, so living in Japan is a great place for me because a lot of the things in the States that I kind of got burnt out with, it's much less here. Like there's almost no crime here. Things work sort of efficiently.
The civility.
Yeah.
I'm still back and forth
Yeah.
New York City and Tokyo, and every time I'm back in Tokyo, it's almost like my guard drops, right? Because when I'm walking in New York City, especially now with post-COVID or COVID, it's really, really dangerous. And people are like blasting off machine guns in the subway trains. It's
insane.
It's insane, the violence that people accept in the United States, as if that's like normal. And the thing that bothers me is that they all think that it's not going to happen to them until the day it does. Right?
Yeah.
There's like mass shooting daily in New York, in elementary schools, middle schools, and it just another day.
Yeah.
So here it's just completely different. The food is great.
Yeah,
I got to be careful, man. Gain weight real quick. But man, so let's talk a little bit about your resume, because when I first met you, it was like 1995. I got signed to King Records. It was a short but very fun tour. We went to Korea and Tokyo. you know, and at that time my middle brother was managing me, so that made it even more fun. You know, he was a crazy guy. And I remember you were like, Lonnie Plaxico was the bass player, and he had recommended you to do the gig, and you were playing with Herbie. So for me, you were like this god of a musician, but it was so great that you were able to do it. And I remember hooking up with you for the first time, and we played at the Seoul Camelot for a week before coming to Japan to do all that. You know, so you at that time you were already playing with Herbie, the trio, right? With Dave Holland. And,
at that point, in the beginning, it was before Dave Holland. That was Jeff Littleton.
Oh yeah, Jeff
so
Littleton.
That was just the trio. Then that changed into at a different date. It changed to Dave Holland after that, and then Craig Handy joined. It became
a quartet. I saw you guys play outdoors as a quartet. I think it was like the Tompkins Square Park movie, and it was with Herbie, Dave Holland, Craig Handy, and you.
Yeah, that was the band for a while. And the last final group that I was in with Herbie was Kenny Davis, who I recommended.
I played with Kenny. He was in the band too?
Yeah, I recommended him to. And at that time, I was actually playing with Kenny and Lonnie more than any other bass player. And it's like we were always doing stuff together. So it's really, Kenny was like my, drummer's dream, great bass player. And then we could come from like similar backgrounds.
Is he from Philly too?
No, he's from Chicago.
Oh, I see.
But similar type of environment. So.
So you did the Herbie thing, and then you were also playing with Wayne Shorter at the same time, or afterwards?
No. So the first initial thing that I did with Herbie was with Herbie, Hancock, Wayne Shorter Quartet.
Oh, I see.
Which I was recommended for that tour by Terry Lynn Carrington.
Oh,
yeah. And that's how I got into the door. I did the first tour with Herbie and Wayne, and then that was like an 8-week tour in Europe. And the next year, that was 1991. The next year, I was working with a lot of different other people, but then 1993 is when Herbie asked me to join his trio.
Great.
And so
that's it's just such a great thing to have on your resume, but I'm sure the experience that is life changing and
beyond
something
words.
that beyond words. Just like I think most New York musicians who do stay and work. I wouldn't say give up, but be able to continue this path for a long time. They all have stories like that. For me, it was Rashid Ali's group. And that, for me, I was in that band for 13 years. And, I always say, like in Boston, I had a great teacher there, Charlie Banakas. I learned from, and what to do as a jazz artist, right? Whereas once I moved to New York and started working with Rashid Ali, I learned how to be a jazz artist. And it's two very different things. And I learned from Rashid the demeanor, the culture, the way to hang, the way to play, the way to carry yourself amongst, because I used to go there every day in his basement studio. We would just jam. And these people, all these jazz legends would just stop by and play. Reggie Workman, Ron Carter would come down, Eddie Henderson, with the Roney brothers. And I would get my ass kicked daily. But Rashid would always say, stay here, keep on playing, keep on playing. And I think that's where I got my schooling, and those kind of experience. He's no longer with us, but
unfortunately.
And I want to pass that on to the younger, because a lot of the younger cats now are just school and that's it.
Right.
Because there's, I think there's maybe less of that kind of culture and jazz environment where you went and played and learned from the master or the older musician.
Right.
Now young cats are getting records signed and they don't, they're the leaders, right?
Right.
And it's been like that for a long, for a while now. I remember Ron Carter saying the same things. And nowadays, 19, 20, because I think we was talking about Boy Hargrove at that time, but it's like before you even had the capacity to really know what you're doing,
right.
Now they put a suit on you,
yeah.
and you became a jazz star.
Yeah.
And
the real essence of what the jazz life is about is not even realized at that early stage.
It's not.
It's a whole lot of stuff that can't be taught at the colleges that's essential to the music and the life of the musician that nowadays the younger generations don't have any clue about it because they don't teach that. And they can't teach that. That's something.
Well, the teachers themselves don't have that experience, and they don't know. And I mentioned like last time we played together, Clarence moved to Florida. And he was saying like he's like it's important because he was talking to himself as why he took this professor job is that it's important to students to hear from people like guys like you, me, in the front line, having been in the trenches.
Right.
Because he said I could go there and talk to the students of what it's like to have played at like Vienna's Music Hall or the Vanguard or whatever, and whereas most college teachers went to college, got a degree, and that's there they are, and it's a very different thing to learn from somebody that actually have done the jazz thing, than somebody who just talks about jazz via books,
right.
And so I said, well, man, that's great. I mean, students down in Florida will have you
have
to give us, firsthand, like what it's like to play the Montreal Jazz Festival, with Sonny Rollins or Michael Brecker, whoever he was working with.
Right.
And you could do the same. What it was like traveling the world with Herbie Hancock. And how do they approach their music? Right. Because now everybody's a real book and this, charts and this and originals. But when I came up, there was no music. Rashid just went and people just showed and somebody called a tune and they played. You had to be able to do it. Yeah. Right? And it was any key. I mean, I remember, who was that bass player? I can't remember. Ugana Okeko, do you know?
Yeah, we play together still.
Even now?
Yeah, because
does he come to Japan?
No, but when the band I have with Dave Berkman and Tim Armacost, when we play in New York.
Oh, I see. Ugana's playing. He's a great bass player.
I love Ugana.
He's just. I remember the song. It was standard that everybody knows. What is this thing called Love? Yeah. But Ugana started playing this real complex bass intro that threw me off, man. And it was in a different key too. So I'm like, come on, man. But those kind of challenges makes you grow. Yeah. And I think just going to college and learning from teachers who just college educated musically isn't going to make you that. But maybe that's not, but at the same time, the business has moved on. And maybe that's, because those are the players that's out there now. Many of them are stars, right? And I think what's accepted.
But I heard from many, veteran jazz listeners or from the audience that supported the music, and a lot of them got kind of turned off with the latest phases of the music because, one, they say, I've heard this, everybody kind of sounds alike because they're studying from the same books and it's the same kind of, the focus is more on technique and complicated. How complicated can you make the music to
more intellectual?
Yeah, which is I came up in the group of musicians who kind of were the young lions that was exploring like odd meter music and all of this stuff. So I like that too. Yeah. But now it's gone to the point where that is the main focus of the musician, and it's it's a little different now. At least when the people that I was working with, Greg Osby and
what was that group? Yeah, Steve Coleman's
Five Elements.
The Five Elements, but it had that kind of like the name.
I worked with Kevin Eubanks, Robin Eubanks.
Right.
Robin and Steve were roommates. So in that same circle of people, Greg Osby, and which we all learned a lot together, but the cats also could still have a connection with the legends that were still alive, so they could get input from the legends, because they were in New York. You could go see them. So the ideas that the guys had, Steve and Robin and whatever, it was rooted in the masters, the stuff that the masters were, what the masters did, and also what they were doing at the time, and then it was an extension of that. Now it's like it's just some stuff out of a textbook and a mathematical, equation. How can I manipulate?
Right. So I always tell my students, listen, man, it's great that you like modern stuff, but you also need to go back. Check out, a lot of my students are guitar players. I said, check out Eddie Lang, check out Charlie Christian for certain, Django Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Just all the way back, and not just your instrument, but Louis Young. Check out all of that stuff and know about it, and have it in your have it inside you on a cellular level.
Yeah.
And then, so in one sense, if you're a musician now, you have a lot more homework to do than if you were a musician that were in the 20s, which only had 20 years of, history.
Right.
Right? And it's probably harder to make new stuff now because there's so much that's already been done.
Yeah.
But, you should know all that.
Yeah.
But because of technology and everything that's around you, it's so much easier to gather all this information.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the 40s, if you wanted to learn how to play bebop, Donna Lee, all this kind of music, you had to go either to the gig or get a record and listen to it over and over again to be able to play it on your instrument.
Right.
Right? There's no book.
Right.
There's no, charts.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing that you can record and play it back slowly.
Right.
That's really amazing what these guys were able to do.
And the level
at the level they did it at. Man, it's so inspiring.
So I think for me, especially at this age, when I think about my heroes, the on every instrument, the guys who came before and what they and especially when I at the age I'm at now, I realize what they did, the amount of gratitude and appreciation for what they did is beyond. I can't express words to cover how I feel about these heroes.
Right.
And I'm so thankful that these heroes existed.
Right.
And
they all had, for the most part, very difficult lives.
Yeah, they had difficult lives,
especially during that time where the U.S. was perhaps even more racist than they are now.
Right.
And well, they still able to, like Coltrane, man. Yeah. I mean, Rashid used to tell me that he would do a gig with Coltrane, and this is in the 60s. He would not be able to go back to the club to go check out, Kenny Dorham's show because they wouldn't allow African Americans inside the venue.
Yeah.
I mean, stories about Billie Holiday, they were paying her in like raw chicken.
Yeah.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy. But the younger people who are college educated, jazz college educated, is it's a lot of great musicians, but there's a lot of stuff that's not there.
Right.
And it should be there. And for instance, here in Japan, I don't have many students, and I also teach at this college. At least my name is on the flyer as being a teacher there, but I have no students. So, from time to time I put out flyers, SMS flyers, and try to get students. So I'm not sure if it's just a language barrier thing that's preventing.
Maybe a language thing.
I told this to another friend of mine. He said, it might be that, but I think now the younger students, they could just go to YouTube
Right.
And
there's all this guys talking about
all kinds of stuff
there.
You know, and I said, I get stuff from YouTube too. I mean, it's a great resource that didn't exist when we was coming up, and it's really a lot of resources.
But now information. I mean, you know, you got to be careful.
Some it's a lot of. It's more
BS,
bullshit than it is real shit.
You know, it's free, fine. You want to go on YouTube. But I mean, I mean, I actually did 3 YouTube lessons, but some of my students said, well, you know, we're paying you good money, right? And to do private lessons, and you're kind of putting up videos for free, so it's not really good for. So I said, yeah, you're right. That's right. And plus, it was, you know, I'm not a video guy. I'm not a YouTuber. You know?
Well, I set up this stuff for, you know, to do virtual lessons during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I didn't spend all this money, and I got a nice setup. I got my cameras and everything, but no students.
Well, I mean, maybe then it's if you're because if I was drummer in Japan, I would like if you're available to teach, I would be the first one in line to take some real drum lessons. Then you know,
I think the priorities have changed, you know, because of the dynamic, you know.
Maybe in Japan, the students want to go to like what everybody else is going to either, you know. So like first you have to get like some sort of popularity or something like that.
Which is not my.
Right.
That's not my desire.
Not, not my thing either. So and that's true for many jazz musicians. If they wanted to be popular, they would be doing like funk. They'd be doing the popular music thing.
Also,
you know?
too, here in particular, the publications that support jazz in Japan, their focus is on something completely different.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I think the players here, I mean, you could kind of tell that they're here, you know. Not to be derogatory or anything like that, but they all play at this very similar levels. Nobody really great, but nobody really very like bad. But the level has improved a lot over the last, you know. There's some really good players here too.
So I just
a lot of foreign players now too, more than ever.
Yeah, a lot of
American, New York players here now.
David Bryan.
They get all married to a Japanese girl. They move.
But there's a lot of musicians coming out of Berkeley, so there were a lot of musicians here now that, because of the pandemic, like these musicians graduated Berkeley or Juilliard or other schools, and moved to New York, but at a time that was right before the pandemic.
Right.
And because of the pandemic, they had to come back to Japan. So there's a lot of those musicians in Tokyo now, high level. I just did a thing with a girl last night, Rina, pianist, and Ogawa Shinpei. Good, great musicians, and they both Shinpei Ogawa and Rina were both, I think, in the States, and they had recently moved to New York, and the pandemic started, so they had to leave. And there's a couple of the drummer Kazu. I forgot his last name.
I still don't know that many local players in Japan.
The level is really, you know, these are.
Well, like I said, the levels are getting better and better and better.
But there are though, like the New York thing that we're talking about is still that is deficient, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just, you have to be.
I think, but you do have to seek it out. I mean, I had to seek it out, even because I went to Berkeley, and many teachers are just book, you know, teachers. The teachers who went to college, and you know, so I had to seek out the real players. Seek out who is who. And by doing that, I was able to educate myself. I thought, well, this is better education than the actual, you know, university itself. And so that's important. You have to seek. Ultimately, jazz is an individual quest, and you do have to seek out. You can't wait till it happens to you. You know,
it's a personal.
Right, and I think there's also truth that musicians individual musicians are sort of attracted to other musicians who share a similar kind of like vibe.
Right.
And well, that's why probably you and I have been working together since 1995.
Yeah.
And I think, well, and then of course, you know, now you live in like a neighborhood where
You grew up.
well, even for a short time, where I actually went to a Japanese school for 1 year as a first grader when I was 5 to 6 years old, and you moved to this place.
Crazy.
I'm like, wow, what kind of
karma.
fake karma? Yeah, what did I ever fucking do to deserve that? In my past life. Oh my God. But anyway, so let's wrap up by if there are young drummers who want to study with you, or who want to have you on their gigs or whatever, what is the best way to contact you?
Well, my website, genejacksonmusic.com.
That's the best place to go.
You can reach me there. There's a link in direct contact to me via email or, Facebook. But my website is the
best place to contact you.
Yeah.
We're doing a show together next week.
Mm-hmm.
Next Friday is what? July 15th. We got to whip out our books.
Yeah.
Anyway, next Friday. Today is what? July 8th. So July 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next Friday, we're playing at Into the Blue in Machida City.
Yep.
We're doing an organ trio.
Gene Jackson.
Yeah, Gene Jackson organ trio. It's going to be interesting because it's been a long time since I played with an organ player. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, man, if you have time, you guys listening in Japan, come out, hang out. And look, my hand moved it again. And oops, these AI cameras.
Yeah. But anyway,
And so that, I also talk about this record. My first Fractal Attraction record.
Hold up, you could zoom in.
Gene Jackson plays drums on it, and then he hated it so much he moved to Japan.
Yes.
And then we haven't been able to hook up for recordings anymore. But Tana Alexa's on it. David Berkman plays piano. Thompson Nealon plays bass. They're all fantastic musicians. But really, if you haven't heard this, I'm very proud of this record, actually. I listened to it the other day. And it's killing.
Yeah,
a lot of people are
for me to be a part of that.
All original music. But anyway, all right, man. It's time to say goodbye. Gene Jackson, people. We're in this, I'm in this like little office here in Kawasaki.
Yeah, in Yurigaoka,
Japan. Where I was there as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, staying with my grandparents. Kind of what crimes did I commit in my early life, previous life to get this?
It's a blessing.
It says that
solidify our connection.
It's even though I'm a man of somebody more empirical science, but there must be some sort of invisible thread that keeps us together, playing over and over again.
I have deep faith in that. I'm not a Christian I'm not religious in that sense, but I do know that we're all connected by some type of unseen thread.
Yeah. Because as of billions of souls on this earth, and handful of people, you kind of cross each other's paths over and over again. Right. And even with musicians, I played with so many musicians in my career, but some of them you just meet once or twice and you never see them again for years.
Right.
And even now, I'm in New York, here in Japan. We still get to play. You're gonna be part of my October Japan tour, all the way from Sapporo to Okinawa.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah.
So anyway, ciao everybody. You should turn that AI off.
Yeah,
this AI not smart.